I've been given the impossible task of introducing Sarah Hixon-Reed, who is the most amazing young woman I have met. She is the co-founder and artistic director for Hixon Dance, which was founded in 2007. Hixon Dance is a not-for-profit providing opportunities to dancers to be able to choreograph and perform, along with doing incredible classes for all ages, including modern hip hop and even classical, along with others. She has performed at the Wexner Center. She has performed in Washington, D.C. at the National Academy of Sciences and numerous other places. Sarah has taught at Wittenberg. She has taught at the Ohio Dancing Festival, she's in Worthington, and many other programs. She received her BFA at George Mason and her Master's of Fine Art at OSU in choreographic techniques and dance. She's part of the dynamic duo you see here. You see Sarah and Jacob. Jacob will be presenting at the end of this program in May, and he is a jazz composer as well as drummer. And they have a beautiful daughter named Callie. And you may have realized you've met these two and their third at Trinity. So I welcome Sarah, and I'm so excited about this, and she's going to introduce what she's doing.
Thank you. The company works every year towards a new project, and this year would have been something we're calling a Harrowing World due to the situation that we're all in. Those performances, unfortunately, were canceled here in April, but I do have some rehearsal footage that I wanted to share with you. This is a very collaborative project in that I worked with the dancers in the studio collaboratively to create the movement. We were basing that movement on a series of poems by Maggie Smith. She is an award-winning poet. She is local here to Bexley. She has 2 books of poetry that she has written. They're excellent. You should check them out. She has a 3rd one actually being released in May. And I read all the poems, and I went through and I sort of pieced together 6 that really spoke to me. And then I took 3 of those and I gave them to Jacob and to another local composer whose name is Lauren Spavelko, and they set 3 of those poems to music. And unfortunately, I don't have a recording of that yet because, of course, it was going to happen live in April. But we are hoping to do that maybe over the summer as things go. But so I have a rehearsal footage from the other sections of this, and this is a small cast of only 5 women. And the piece really looks at sort of things that we have inherited from our past, how that shapes our perspective of the world and how we're dealing with things in the world, and then what we're leaving behind us, what we are passing on to our children. And so there's a lot of maternal and sororal themes in this work. And I can certainly start sharing that with you unless somebody has a question or would like to know more information before they take a look. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you all. And Stacy, let me know if that's working.
Yes, it is. Hixon Dance.
So the first section is a trio, and this is to a poem which you will get to hear in the recording by Maggie Smith called See No Evil. And let me know if you have sound as well.
forgetting how I am the one covering my eyes in the photograph. Another covers her ears, another her mouth. This is years ago. My hair is dyed an auburn so dark it is nearly violet. No Evil is still a schoolgirl, her neat bangs cut straight across. Speak No Evil is alive, her cigarette burning down in the ashtray. Not yet put to sleep, our black dog circles before lying down, lapping cords of smoke from the air. We hardly notice as evil, a dark leak of it slips past the gates of our fingers and into our bodies.
So that is a opening portion of the beginning of the work. And I didn't know if we wanted to have conversation now or if we wanted to look at more, but I'm certainly open to discussing that first section.
Why don't we take a few minutes to discuss that?
Sure.
Can I get that larger?
Share screen.
Can you tell us about the music, Sarah?
Yeah, that is actually a piece of John Cage. It's called In a Landscape. It's beautiful and it's very trance-like, and I felt that it kind of worked to set the tone for this section and for the poem. Obviously in the poem, the author is looking at a photograph of herself, and it's not clear who the other two figures are. My interpretation of that was potentially sisters. And that spoke to me being the middle of, or the youngest of three sisters also. So that's where I got that idea. That's also why it's a trio.
How long ago was the poem written?
In the last 10 years, I would say, not too long ago.
Seems
I don't know the
very
exact date.
appropriately contemporary.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, um, I'm trying to place what you're doing into other integrated art forms. You know, Cage obviously was partnered both aesthetically and domestically with Merce Cunningham. So I guess tapping into your inner Merce Cunningham, which is a good thing to tap into. But you know, I'm just wondering, you've got music, you've got poetry, you've got movement, you've got lighting, I guess, and choreography. I mean, what else is going on there for you as a creator?
I would say that when I was younger, I used to be really concerned with sort of creating these, if you want to call them pure dance pieces, they were all my movement, my lexicon that I manipulated and worked with the dancers on, but it was very controlled and it was very isolated in what it was. And it had lighting and costumes and all of that, but it was very distilled. And I've kind of left that. And I feel like right now I'm much more interested in this sort of collaboration. I'm much more interested in getting lots of voices into the process. On top of the poetry and the music and the dancers, what you're not seeing here is that there would be a set piece. There would, of course, be live musicians on stage with the dancers performing. The piece would actually start with them on stage in stillness, with the lights on, and a single piece of paper at the beginning would fall from the ceiling. And paper would fall periodically throughout. So paper is kind of the theme for this first section of the work. And that goes with the poetry for the song, which comes after it, which is called Heart, which uses a lot of imagery of children, folding paper, tracing an outline and cutting it in order to unfold to make a shape like a heart. And so there was a lot of imagery of childhood as well as this manipulation of an object. So that's the first section. I just think it makes the work more interesting. It makes it richer. It takes it into different places that I, on my own, would probably not go. And it's also really challenging in a good way to shape the work and to sort of take the ideas of all these different voices and bodies and then start to really craft the larger picture of it.
So Sarah, when you read a poem, do you think movement immediately? What triggers in your mind that a certain poem would be something you'd want to choreograph? Or everything you read, are you dancing in your mind at the same time?
It really depends on the poem. There's a lot of poetry that I read that I think is beautiful or interesting or moving that I don't think of movement at all, and I don't think would be appropriate for movement. For movement, I really like poems that are a little bit sparse and a little bit open-ended, because I feel like then there's room, to take it and add to it and start to create something that is a little bit different, a little bit new. Maybe it's different than what the poet thought, but it has more space there. This isn't the first time we've worked with poetry. I have actually commissioned Jacob to set some other pieces of poetry to music to create work. And again, there I felt like, if the poetry is too descriptive and too broad, it has too much of its own picture painted, then I feel like there's no room for the movement to live with it. So it depends on the poem. Yeah.
Great. Well, let's move into your next pieces that you have.
So the second clip that I have here is from the second section of the work. It's a duet. This is to a poem called "At Your Age, I Wore Darkness." And this piece of music is a 17th century piece of music for theorbo, which is related to a lute. It's kind of like a guitar with extra strings, but the neck goes out maybe 4 feet. It's quite large. And so this is an old piece for that. The second piece would be a piece that Jacob wrote for theorbo and soprano. But I don't have a recording of that, so you'll just see the first section here. Let me know if you are seeing my screen. Let me go back a little bit here.
We can see it.
Okay.
At your age, I wore a darkness several sizes too big. It hung on me like a mother's dress. Even now, as we speak, I am stitching a darkness you'll need to unravel. Unraveling another you'll need to restitch. What can I give you that you can keep? You once asked, "Does the sky stop?" It doesn't stop. It just stops being one thing and starts being another. Sometimes we hold hands and tip our heads way back. So the blue fills our whole field of vision. So we feel like we're in it. We don't stop. We just stop being what we are and start being what? Where? What can I give you to carry there? These shadows of leaves, delace and solace. This soft hand-me-down darkness. What can I give you that will be of use in your next life? The one you will live without me.
So that's the first part of the second section. And I know we're getting close to being out of time here, but I'm willing to go on.
We can go a few extra minutes if that works
Sure.
for everyone, and if people have to pop off, certainly do. But I think it's just a Buddhist meditation group that starts at 12:15 that we're trying not to run into. So
Got it.
we have until then.
You certainly have a lot going on there. And in that piece, there was a lot going on.
Yes, there's a lot going on.
A lot going on is the other thing I was trying to say. Very nice.
Good.
I
Thank
was
you.
wondering whether the poet herself has seen any of this or whether you collaborate with her.
I've been in touch with her, but I have not actually collaborated with her. She was very excited to come and see the piece, but of course she has not gotten to do that. She's only seen some video clips like you guys have, so she has not seen the full effect.
Right.
Okay, Kevin, you have your calendar. June 7th is Trinity Sunday. We're hoping to do some musical celebrations around Day of Pentecost. Probably everything will be on, video filmed. But Trinity Sunday would be, I think, would be enriched by that piece. And here's why. Augustine says that the Trinity, if everybody says the Trinity is a dance, it's not three separate individual expressions of God or components of God, but rather it's the dance of God.
Mm.
Greek is perichoresis. And that idea of constantly dancing often is played out with three parts. But Augustine says that the Trinity really grows out of the love between the Father and the Son. And that the Holy Spirit is the splashing of the water between Father and Son in a playful bath. And we join in that splashing when the Spirit splashes the water on us. Baptism. We're baptized into the Trinity. So we're not outside of the Trinity watching it. We enter into it.
Mhm.
It's part of the dance. I was moved by the duet, the two women dancing and the space in between. Ruth, I thought of you about something you said last week about it's not about objects, but it's about the form and the relationship, between the things, so that takes on a third person, if you will. And then all of a sudden, I don't know where it came from, that gauze, that white. I mean, I know Kevin will say, I never miss a chance to be overly didactic. But my goodness, if that's not a Trinity piece, I don't know what is. If not this year, next year, please come to Trinity and dance that on Trinity Sunday.
I will work that out.
Beautiful.
Good. Thank you. If there's any questions or anything else I can
I guess
on.
the fabric really jumped out for me too, and then hearing you talk about the paper and the use of paper in the previous dance. So these impermanent objects, I mean, that disintegrate quickly, and obviously dance, I mean, it's in the movement, it's obviously coming and going quickly. So I wonder if you could kind of speak to that impermanence, or how you determine what objects you are going to use in a piece that's based on movement.
Sure. So as I said before, the first section is really about paper, and I pulled that image out of the poetry. The two poems really talk about manipulating this object that is made of paper or a photograph, which is similar. And so that will be part of the entire piece, the cloth and the paper, and actually some maybe anywhere from 1 to 4 foot lengths of sort of unfinished wood. These would all be objects in the space with the dancers from the beginning. And in the second movement, I got the idea of cloth. And again, that came from some of the language in the poetry. The poem begins with, "At your age, I wore darkness several sizes too big. It hung on me like a mother's dress." And so the dancers are exploring a lot of draping. There's a lot of times that they're sort of laying on each other in certain ways. And then I sort of had this idea of what happens to the movement if you are actually connected by a piece of fabric. And what does that look like? And I think there's images in that of sort of, the child being taken to bed with her blanket. And so there's a bit of a, child-mother relationship happening in the second section. That in the next part that you're not going to be able to see today, that power, that relationship shifts. And it's more of a struggle, and it's more of a, role reversal for the two of them. And then in the third section, which is all 5 dancers together, the object is wood, and that also comes from some of the poetry that's used. One of the poems we use, which is probably her most famous poem, is "Good Bones," in which she talks about a real estate agent trying to sell you a house, and how it has, talking about how it has good bones. And from there, the idea is that all 3 of these objects, throughout in the transition moments, which you're also not seeing today, the dancers will be constructing a makeshift tent out of those objects. Also called in Jewish practice, it's called a sukkah, part of the festival of Sukkot, where you would build a temporary structure where you are supposed to dine in every evening. And it's supposed to have sort of branches that allow you to see through it. And it's sort of a very transitory space that you're creating. And so that's actually how the piece would would end. It was with them completing the building of this structure together. And I felt like that sort of summarized for me the purpose of the piece, which is really using these relationships and using art and using these things to create shelter for ourselves, to create a safe place, a sanctuary, a feeling of home that can give you solace and can help you cope with the world and your relationship to it. So
Very nice.
I hope it gets performed.
I hope so too.
Yeah. It was very sad a couple weeks ago to suddenly not be rehearsing and not be preparing for it. But, we're glad everyone's safe, and I'm doing Zoom classes with the dancers, but, when we can all gather to rehearse and when we can certainly expect an audience to participate in it with us, I'm not sure. So we're hoping sooner than later, but probably not till next year. So.
Sarah, tell us about Hixon Dance and where you're going to be. You've been kind of artists in residence, sort of located at Connell in Worthing.
Yeah, we so as Catherine said, I started the company in 2007, and we currently, for the last maybe 4 years, we've been in residency at the McConnell Art Center. So we create work there. That's where we rehearse typically. We also offer classes there for everywhere from 3-year-olds through adults. We perform there, but we also perform in other venues around town. Most often we perform at Columbus Dance Theater on Main Street, which is a really nice, intimate black box space. It works well for these kinds of pieces. And we do outreach and all kinds of activities for schools and, the Wexner Center for the Arts. And, we've collaborated with the Opera Project Columbus, and just, we're also in partnership right now with Catco as Kids. We're going to have some, I don't know if you have any little ones or grandchildren, we're going to have some dance videos coming out with them pretty soon in May. So they have some activities to do at home. And we also offer some adult classes in collaboration with it's a massage therapy business called Relevate LLC, and we offer dancing mindfulness classes, which is really using movement as a way to center, to meditate, to rejuvenate, to use as a therapeutic tool. So we do a lot, but we're kind of all over.
They're amazing. And you can see being given only 2 minutes of time to talk about Sarah, you really need about 10 because they really are doing an amazing job. And they actually, Sarah was a person that the Columbus Opera went to, I believe, to do help choreograph Amal and the Night Visitors.
Mm-hmm.
She's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And she's there. People have recognized her talent without a doubt, but she is giving so many others an opportunity to dance and to choreograph, which I think is so beautiful because of the fact they graduate from OSU and MFA. And where do they go? Are they just keep on going classes or whatever? But Sarah's given them the opportunity to really be able to dance, and in some case, like she does, choreograph work, which I just think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, once a year we host we call it the Columbus City Dance, and we invite local choreographers to submit work, and I ask professionals that are not myself, who are not in the Columbus area, to act as adjudicators of that work. And everyone who submits receives written feedback from those adjudicators, which is really valuable as an artist to, especially once you've left school, you've left sort of that feedback loop, to continue to get information about what other people are seeing in your work to help you grow and continue to develop as an artist. And then out of those, maybe 7 to 10 of those are selected to be produced in a concert here in Columbus. So it's kind of a nice variety of the work being done by artists here who are emerging. So again, I don't know if that's happening this year. We may have to postpone that as well. But Columbus City Dance, when we get back to it, we hope to again have a showcase of local talent. So check our website.
We will. Sarah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Evident you collaborate in everything that you do. And I like how Mike is showing his CD right there.
Oh, yes.
There is also Early Music Columbus.
Correct. I'm the program director for Early Music in Columbus. That's my day job hat.
Addition. Well, good. Well, you are also a friend of Trinity's, and we are so grateful to have you a part of our community, and that you are so gracious and generous with the sharing of your talents and gifts. So thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
And
it.
our website, the website has it all on it as well. And you can keep up with what the performances are going to be and where, if and when we can have them.
Yes.
Sarah, thank you.
We're still hopeful.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Everybody.
watching.
Same times next week with Carl Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good week.